Hello, Xylophoney here, welcoming you to How to Pixelmon, your instructional Pixelmon guide. Now, today we're going to be revisiting something we've spoke about a long time ago. If you're a long-term fan of this series, you know we've gone over hold items before. Now, we're not just going over all the same ones again, but we're going over the new ones. Recently in Pixelmon, a whole lot of them have been added, and I've gone over them here and there, but today we're just going to go all out, talk about every hold item that was added, and how they can help you in battle. So, let's start off with some of the basics, go back in time to when Choice Specs, Choice Band, and Choice Scarf were the only thing around. Now they actually work properly, so they are very limiting to your attacks. They make it so you can only use one, of course, but they increase your damage or speed by an extra 50%. Now, Leftovers and Shell Bell have always been around for a while. Shell Bell will give you health back if you deal a good amount of damage, and Leftovers gives you a little bit of health back each turn, I believe 8% of your health. So these are both very good for tanky Pokemon, and these are good for sweepers. Now, of course, some of the more recent additions were Metronome and Wide Lens. Metronome being great if you're going to use the same move over and over again, so it'll increase its damage by 20% each time you do that. If you have a sweeper that's going to be using the same move a lot, I'd highly advise this. Still one of my favorite items. There's also Wide Lens, which increases your accuracy by 10%. Great for anything that's going to use Hypnosis or another move that might not hit so often. And then we have these evolution items, which also do something useful. King's Rock and Razor Fang. They actually make it so it increases the chance of your opponent flinching. Now, this isn't always the best thing to rely on, but if you have attacks that can have a chance of flinching already, such as Rock Throw or something, then these are definitely some fun items to have on your Pokemon. Now let's look at the Cell Battery. It's been around for quite a while, and it's never really been used too heavily, because it's not very good, to be honest. If you're attacked by an electric attack, it will turn some of that damage done to you into attack, and it'll increase your attack when you do that. But usually if you want to increase your attack, then you're not something that'll be sustaining a lot of electric damage. Absorb Bulb is new, but it also does a very similar thing with water damage. Now, of course, this could be useful for tanky types. If you want to just build a tanky Pokemon, throw an Absorb Bulb on it, and then slowly increase your damage, it'll do that. Every time someone uses a water move on you, it'll increase your special attack. However, there's not a lot of situations where this is going to be very useful. It only helps you when water Pokemon are attacking you. So these items I wouldn't really strongly advise, but they're there if you ever decide to use them. Now we have probably my new favorite item, Life Orb. It increases your damage by an extra 30% while taking away 10% of your health when you do an attack move. So it's a bit of a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. You do additional damage, but you also take more damage. I find this is amazing for sweepers because in, say, competitive gameplay, then if you're going, really strong Pokemon against really strong Pokemon, chances are the battle's going to end in 1 or 2 hits. So when it comes to a Life Orb, you're doing an additional 30% of the damage you would do to your opponent, while you're only taking 10% of your health. So I feel like it's a very useful thing to have, and if you know your Pokemon's faster than the other, then it'll guarantee you get that one hit that you're looking for with a good sweeper. There's also Razor Claw, which I've not used very often yet. It is new in one of the most recent updates, but in addition to evolution stuff, it makes it so your Pokemon has a higher chance of critically hitting your opponent. So this will increase your chances of getting a nice crit, which also not probably the best thing to depend on, but obviously if you get a good crit in a battle that you're having a hard time in, it can always help you out. Now over here are some items that can generally be good in competitive gameplay, but not quite yet in Pixelmon. Toxic Orb and Flame Orb. Now the Flame Orb makes it so when you throw out a Pokemon with the Flame Orb on, he automatically gets burned. Normally this would not be a very good thing. Toxic Orb, when you throw it out, the Pokemon that's wearing it gets poisoned. So you don't want to just casually throw one of these on your Pokemon. You need a complete plan to make this work. Now, the reason why Toxic Orb, for example, would be useful is because certain abilities, which are not quite in Pixelmon yet, one being Poison Heal, which you could get on a Glee score. So every time you're poisoned, you gain 16% of your health back. So if you put Toxic Orb on a Glee score with Poison Heal, it's like having a Leftovers that's twice as good, and Glee scores can be rather tanky, so it'll be very good. Another reason this could be good is using moves such as Facade, which do extra damage when you have a status effect on you. This would be great for a Pokemon with, say, the ability Guts, but currently in Pixelmon, this also doesn't work. So Soon these will be pretty useful if you get the right setup, but for now, I would not advise using them. Now we're going to get to some of the items that have been added recently. Over here we have the gems. Now the gems are very interesting because they can be crafted by the player. Simple enough, you get certain items, surround it in diamonds, and you can turn it into a gem. However, that's not necessarily always worth the price, because once you use the item, it's gone for good. They increase that type's damage, which, you know, quite simple. Fire gem, fire damage, rock gem, rock damage. I'm pretty sure they're all exactly the type of the Pokemon, so you don't need to worry about it. So if you get one of these, they're good, but I wouldn't really go through making them, because once you use them in battle once, they're gone for good, and you lose 5 diamonds. So, generally decent items, but there's something I'd rather use right over here. Now, these are all the mostly new items, including the Metal Coat, which has already been here, which increase type damage. Now, Poison Barb, poison damage, Sharp Beak, flying damage, Mystic Water, water damage, Never Melt Ice, ice damage, Silk Scarf, normal damage. Apologies if I go over each of these individually, but I'm sure someone will have a question about it. So, Sand is ground type, Twisted Spoon is psychic type, the Magnet is electric type, Dragon Fang, dragon type, Black Belt, fighting type, Black Glass is dark type, Charcoal is fire type, Silver Powder is bug type, Hardstone, rock type, Miracle Seed is grass type, Spell Tag, ghost type, and the Metal Coat is steel type. And this will increase all of that Pokemon's that type of damage's attack. So if you have a Pokemon that has like multiple normal moves on it, you're going to want to put a Silk Scarf on it. If you're using a Pokemon that for some odd reason has 3 rock moves, go ahead, put a hard stone on it, because that'll mean that all of those moves are having their damage increased. Now these items aren't necessarily as good as the items in the first chest. They don't increase it by as much. Some of these, such as the Life Orb, will increase it by 30%, or the choice items by 50%, while these only increase it by 20%. But these are a lot more reliable. These are a lot more stable, because they don't have any negative returns. So they only help the type of move that they're designed for, but they don't make you take damage at the end. They don't lock you into anything. They just give you a bit of help for everything you're doing. So that's what they come down to. And finally, we're going to go into the incenses. Now, the main focus of the incense, as well as the Destiny Knot, is for breeding. I just put this there because, it's for breeding. Now, the reason this is useful for breeding is because to get, if you breed 2 Snorlaxes together, you actually get another Snorlax. But if you breed them while holding a pure incense, you will get a Munchlax. So this stuff is pretty much for getting the baby forms of Pokemon. But they all also have effects when you put them on Pokemon for battle. Now, some of them aren't really going to be a lot of help, like the Luck Incense gives you more money off trainer battles, which really isn't quite a thing you need to worry about in Pixelmon. But these ones down here will help. Now, Odd Incense, Rock Incense, Rose, Wave, and Sea Incense all increase a certain type of damage's attack by 20%. So they're very similar to the items you've seen in the chest over there. Odd Incense is Psychic type, Rock is, Rock type, Rose is Water type, and both Wave and Sea increase Water type damage. The only one of these which is interesting is the Lax Incense, which is good for tanky Pokemon because it increases evasiveness by 10%. Which means you have a 10% higher chance of dodging your opponent. Now, in most circumstances, this isn't amazing, but it would be great for a tanky Pokemon that's utilizing a move such as Double Team or Sand Attack, where you want to lower the enemy's accuracy. And it can be a lot of fun to really make your opponent rage at not being able to hit. That's where a Lax Incense would come in handy. I haven't personally tested if this item works in Pixelmon or not, but that is what it is supposed to do and will do once it is fully operational, if it isn't already. So that's pretty much all the hold items it comes down to. Now, obviously, some of the more extreme ones are in this chest here. Obviously, Life Orb, Metronome can be a little limiting, but they're probably my favorite. You got your Razor Fang and King's Rock. And, well, pretty much I've already gone over all these. If you need to see any more information, you can just go back in the video, look at the previous video on this, or of course ask me questions in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to help you out if you have any question at all. Thank you for watching this episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed and learned something about the hold items, and I'll see you next time on How to Pixelmon. Goodbye.